Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to The Bottom Shelf.
So, Dallas,
Yeah.
I need you to. We need to connect Shiro Base with the TBS station.
Yeah, I mean it's orbiting pretty closely. In fact, it's about to dock now here in a little bit.
Oh, good.
Got a refuel.
Good, because there's some taco machines on there that need my attention.
Some things never change.
I mean, as long as they still function.
Well, and then there's also I've heard some rumors about Poofy.
It's Poofay. Say his name right.
Poofay.
Thank you.
Has been leaving Tootsie Rolls in various places for everybody.
He has a condition. Come on. He's sensitive about it.
Oh, it's sensitive, all right.
Oh, okay, whatever. Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Where's Kevin? I haven't seen him anywhere.
Oh, Kevin. Yeah. So Kevin has he's gone off on kind of a new adventure, some new great massive cinematic mission that he's going on right now, and so unfortunately, it's just taking a lot of his time. He won't be able to be part of what we're doing here, but we sent him off. Wished him all the best, and sent him off with his own little pod. And it included a lifetime supply of stale popcorn and bad movies.
Lucky Charms.
So, but for real, like, unfortunately, he just won't be able to be with us for a while. But we love him and hoping for the best for him.
Cool. Well, best of luck to you, Kevo. We love you, buddy.
Hey, Branson.
Yeah.
I just got. I'm sorry for going through your stuff. I was going through your pod on Shiro Base.
Yeah.
Because there was a strong odor of armpit and
okay,
vinegar.
You keep talking. I'm going to put you on the rotation to bathe Poofay if you keep talking.
No, it's coming from this purple spandex.
No. Put that away. Put that away. Stop.
Prepare yourself to discover a world of terrible movies. High above the planet Geekery, a group of intrepid explorers hover over the dangerous planet in their fabulous super-orbital spacecraft. Their mission? To conduct a complete analysis of movies known throughout the universe as terrible. So grab your space popcorn, grab your freeze-dried ice cream, and join us for today's mission of discovery and wonder. Are these movies better than the galaxy thinks? Or do they really belong on the bottom shelf?
Hello, movie lovers and movie haters. Welcome to The Bottom Shelf, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions. This show from devoted geeks who are devoted to let know that you're loved. In this podcast, we are here to let you guys know that every movie has a place. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a new day. It's a new podcast. We're excited. John, my good friend, what are we doing today?
We're watching terrible movies and talking about them.
Oh, okay. Good deal. So, what's the boxy thing in Branson's spandex there?
It's a condition. He doesn't want anybody to talk about it.
Not the ones he's wearing.
This is why we shouldn't go through people's stuff, man. Now you know my secret identity.
If you're asking what movie we're watching this episode, now that everything just got 5 flavors of awkward, we're watching 1996's The Phantom. Rated PG and is 1 hour and 40 minutes. And it is directed by Simon Windsor, written by Lee Falk and Jeffrey Boehm. And it stars Billy Zane, Christy Swanson, who is everybody's favorite vampire slayer, and everybody's favorite Treat Williams.
All right. Star-studded cast right there.
If you say so.
Actually, the first time I ever saw Billy Zane.
Yeah,
That's my earliest memory of seeing him on screen.
cool.
Let's see here. The back of the box. Let me pull it out of my spandex. Ugh.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to read the information off of that box while it was in there, but I did my best.
Well,
It's really thin spandex. I'm not really sure. What do you?
you know, I'm trying to work out. Okay, I can't. Not all of us can have the body of a Greek god. You know, I'm getting there.
Well,
You've got the
I don't have-
body of a Norse god, my dude.
I got the
Well, you
body
know,
of,
I'll take it.
Buddha.
All right, for the Phantom. Let me get my movie announcer guy voice going. Billy Zane stars as the Phantom in this thrill-a-minute actioner based on one of the most successful comic series of all time. The story begins as an expedition lands on the island of Bengala, seeking the legendary skulls of Tuganda. Believed to harness an energy force of incalculable power, where the skulls could spell disaster for mankind. And that's exactly what ruthless tycoon Xander Drax, played by Treat Williams, has in mind, unless one man can save it. Now evil has met its match, and great movie adventure has a new name: The Phantom.
All right. Let's see here. Let me see. There's some taglines here for us. Gun-toting Tarzan in purple tights fights over top villain. What? Not a bad movie, it says. The Phantom, more like fandom. Wow.
Well, that's
that
what we're all about at Geek Devotions, the fandom.
Yeah, reading, Branson, reading.
Sorry.
DUMB.
Sorry. Okay. Spelling isn't my strong suit.
So the spandex were in your way. That's understandable. Still a better movie than The Shadow. Wow. We have to talk about that later. Unintentional campiness that makes it more endearing than annoying. Okay. The original legacy superhero. This is true. The costume works better in 2D than in 3D.
You know, I find that's true of a lot of superhero costumes.
Yeah, I give you that. The Ghost Who Walks meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the middle shelf adventure Indiana Jones in spandex.
That one's amazing. Like, if we were going to give awards to any of these, that one would be the one that would get for
I
me.
concur. I'm gonna have to look to see who did that one. We'll give him a shout out here later. Enjoyed the movie overall, but thought that Treat Williams as the Vision started out bad, and it got worse as the film progressed. And warning: Power Ring may cause preference to purple pajamas. So kind of a hodgepodge of thoughts here.
Is that what got you, Branson?
A power ring?
Oh Lord! All right, so I gotta say this. Was looking at our notes, seeing who wrote these taglines. I accidentally combined two different taglines.
Wow!
Our award goes to a combination of Wardell White, big fan of the show, and the Monster Island Film Vault. So, so the two came together like Voltron and made it happen. So
you heard it here, Nathan. The big gift is you have to have Dale guest on your show now. So
have fun.
Because the two of you working together have this awesome comment.
You powers combined. All right.
Wonderton powers activate. Form of a comical tagline on a podcast nobody knows about.
You know, that sounds like a cartoon that would get picked up by somebody. Probably Fox. Oh my gosh. John, do you have trivia about this?
I do. I'm not going to read a lot of it because, well, you'll see. So I guess Billy Zane pumped iron for over a year to fill out the Phantom's costume.
Nice.
They made a Batman-like costume with fake muscles for this, but by the time filming had started, Zane was so beefed up that he didn't actually need it.
I
so
respect that.
All the muscles you see on that suit are 100% American beef. So when filming, Billy Zane had a habit of running out to buy sushi while wearing his Phantom costume. That's
I have an idea. Guys, y'all sit tight. I'm going to run down to Planet Geekery real quick.
GeekCon, ladies and gentlemen.
Forget taco machines. I will go purchase tacos in my Phantom suit.
one of the Phantom's trademarks in the comic strip are his striped underpants.
Right.
This was actually tried on the movie costume, but reportedly this was what looked too silly to be used in this film.
This is what looked too silly.
I guess.
I can see that though. Like
this movie was originally going to be the first of a trilogy. However, after it bombed so terribly in the box office, the 2 sequels were canceled.
That makes me sad.
And then Palmer's butler is named Falkmore in this movie, I guess. And the name was derived from Lee Falk, who was the creator of the Phantom, and Ray Moore, who was the first artist of the Phantom.
Oh,
I respect that
cool.
move.
That's awesome.
And then for my last little bit of information that I personally want to slip into an alternate dimension where either of these happened. But there was 2 people who were also considered for the role of the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are fantastic. Okay.
Oh, really?
So the first one was Bruce Campbell.
Okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
Or Kevin Smith.
This would have been ridiculous. This would have been ridiculous.
The first one, I don't know. The second one, heck no.
You know,
Just
Campbell.
no.
Campbell he did all the VO stuff for the Spider-Man movies.
You're talking about Kevin Smith?
No,
Campbell.
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, no, that's the one I'm talking about. It's like I don't. He might be okay. I don't know, but Kevin Smith,
Oh, I said when you said I don't know Bruce Campbell, I thought you were saying you didn't.
No,
know who he was.
I meant I don't know about him playing the Phantom. I know who he is. Come on, Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man fan here. How could I not know who Bruce Campbell is?
Yes, because that's how I know Bruce Campbell.
That's how I know Bruce Campbell. That's why he's relevant to me. I know he's got this whole Evil Dead look. I have a chainsaw for a hand, whatever.
I mean, you like Sam Raimi.
Okay, but again, the reason I know that is because of Spider-Man.
I got you. So, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a portion of the show where we give our expectations.
Lower expectations.
I'll let you make that. John, what are your expectations going into watching this film today?
All right. So I have a feeling that I am the only person here who hasn't actually seen this movie before.
I mean, maybe.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
But so I don't know a lot about this movie. I know it came out about the same time that The Shadow live action with Alec Baldwin came out.
About a good 6 years later.
I don't know about that. But without spending too much time discussing why Dallas is incorrect, I would say that I didn't know much about it going into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't a fan of the comic and anything like that. All I knew was that it didn't do well critically or commercially. And so for that reason alone, I never really stepped in to watch it because I'm superheroed out. And a superhero movie is going to have to do a lot to make me give a crap at this point because the market's so oversaturated for me. So
I give you that.
Just stepping in, The Shadow was released in 94, Phantom was released in 96.
Yep.
2 years.
So 2
brother.
years.
I own that. I messed that up.
So I'm not expecting a lot.
Yeah.
Going into this.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Branson, you're predicting bottom shelf for this, right? Or dumpster fire? Dumpster fire? Is that what you were saying?
No. Full disclosure, I've not only seen this movie before, I have seen this movie multiple times. I saw it in theaters. I
Wow.
read the novelization when it came out. When it became syndicated to on TV, I watched it all the time, rented it multiple times as a kid. Uh, when I first signed up for a Hulu subscription and saw that it was on Hulu, I spent an evening watching it. Um, I don't actually own a copy, which is silly. I should go ahead and own a copy because I've watched it so much. I love this movie. And I don't think it's just nostalgia because the last time I sat down and watched it before this was probably 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I fully expect to all of the things that I love about this movie. I fully expect to just love it again. I will try, as has been suggested before, to put a filter on to remove the filter to remove all of my preconceived ideas and to see it objectively.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about this movie is it is campy. It is what it is. I mean, people who say this movie is so campy and the writing is so terrible and all that is like, yeah, okay, it is. But for one thing, as a kid, as much as John is experiencing superhero burnout, as a kid, superheroes were my thing.
Mm.
Like if you have a guy in tights with a mask on, automatically, I'm there. I want to watch it. You know.
Just for clarification, are you a fan of like luchadore?
No, that's wrestling.
Am I? Am I?
I mean, crime fighting specifically.
I was about to say, am I the only person who just heard Branson say he was there for a guy with tights on?
No. What he represents.
As a kid, you were excited to see men with tights on.
Okay, you know what? They're men in tights. Tights.
That's what you said, brother. That's all I'm saying.
They may look like pansies.
The point is, this is derailing. So
this is what Branson does. That's what the point is.
Derailed podcast is one I was on a couple weeks ago. That's not this podcast.
Oh, okay. All right. But no, I love this movie. It's based on an adventure comic strip from the 40s or something like that.
Oh man, I'll look that up.
30s, 40s.
I want to say it's pulp. It's a pulp comic.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's interesting that they mentioned the Shadow earlier because it was a contemporary of the Shadow, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy it. I enjoy it for what it is. It's campy. It's a great popcorn flick.
1936.
1936. Yeah. So Depression era, pre-World War II type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I enjoyed it, and I expect that I'll enjoy it again. And I'll go into why I think I'll enjoy it after we've watched it. So,
sounds good.
Where are you at with this one, Dallas?
I am like Branson. I've seen this many times over the years.
You gonna give your full disclosure on this one, Dallas?
Say what? Oh, I mean, I'm not gonna lie about it, man. I've walked into this, yeah, I have fond memories watching this as a kid, living in Missouri. Renting it from the little bitty video store a town away in Willard, Missouri, many times. I remember in college getting a group of my friends to sit down. I go, this will be a bad movie, and we're going to laugh at it. And we did. Like, we sat down in the foyer of our dorm, and we watched this movie together, and we laughed. It was a good time. It is one of those things. It is camp, which I feel like you have to go into it knowing. With that mindset, I go, it's not the greatest movie in the world. It's not one of those ones that you're like, oh, this is the movie of the year. This is going to just keep you enthralled the entire time. There are going to be moments you're like, why am I watching this? And you won't have answers for it. You'll just keep watching it, at least for me. So I'm looking forward to watching it and enjoying it. I'm also, I'm a comic book fan. I'm a superhero fan. I'm a fan of Batman, and there are elements of the Shadow and the Phantom that have bled into everything we know. Like, these are the forerunners of our the modern day heroes of Batman and Superman, as modern day as characters from the 40s can be. I think that Brent, you may know better than me. I want to say this came out. The original comic came out like 2 years beforehand of 1936. That's a couple years before Superman was ever published.
Superman was 37, I think.
Okay, so it's like 2 or 3 years beforehand. So we in the in the pre-show talking about it. Fun fact: they were workshopping names for the Phantom in the comics originally, and he wanted to call it something interesting because there were already several characters out there called the Phantom. One of the original proposed names, and Branson, you may catch this, was the Gray Ghost.
Really?
The Gray Ghost.
Cool.
Which for Batman the Animated Series fans, you know that was the shadow figure that they used to be the inspiration for Bruce Wayne becoming Batman in Batman the Animated Series.
Voiced by none other than Adam West.
Yes. So lots of cool roads for me watching this, and again,
That's
like
cool.
the pulpy stuff. So we'll get into that later. But that's where I'm at, ladies and gentlemen.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and have Glix fire up the projector, and no spandex in the viewing area, sir.
Well, that actually works because honestly, guys, I'm getting a real bad wedgie. I gotta go change. So give me a minute. I'll be right there.
Dear listeners, this is your opportunity to escape. Our crew has just entered into the media projection chamber. What horrors and madness that they consume are unknown. Their mental state upon their return is unknown. You have been warned.
So we literally just watched Batman Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Crystal Skull.
Jade. It's Jade. Jade Skull. Jade Skull.
That's
Branson, why are your hands on your waist like that? Calm down.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I can't help it. It's the hero pose.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. You're not wrong about that. When we're watching it was like, oh, it's Indiana Jones all of a sudden.
all of a sudden the whole movie. They like the intro of this movie was like literally the last, and I should know this because I just watched this on a plane ride back from Indiana. But the entire first part of this movie was the last 15 minutes of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
literally was.
Well, but think about it. It's a similar idea though. The Phantom is supposed to be this jungle hero guy. And so the setting matches. You've got tribal people, you've got ancient ruins, you've got, it makes sense. Yeah. Like I could see Indiana Jones going to some sort of sacred land that's protected by the Phantom. This is a crossover that should have happened.
Like honestly, in this movie, I would not have been surprised if Harrison Ford was walking one direction, the Phantom was the other, and they'd be, oh, excuse me. My bad.
That would have been awesome. That would have added into it.
So great.
So just putting this out there, one of the trivias I found about this was the original script was far more self-aware.
Oh.
And so that would have been perfect within this.
So it would have been the Tick.
It would have been the Tick. But one of the things about the script, from my understanding, is this is actually the combination of 3 different actual comic stories of the Phantom from the original run of it. And
it felt like that.
Yeah.
It felt like every different scene felt like it was a piece of a daily comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was one connected story, but it was a bunch of like little bitty adventures within the overarching story, and then it culminated in the big story.
Yeah, exactly. And so with that combination, one of that's what added to some of the, like, it felt like it was because Indiana Jones is kind of like that, where it just feels like it's everywhere at times.
Yeah.
And so that kind of adds to it. Now, the opening scenes, obviously going through the jungle, I did half expect them to see them running from a giant boulder. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Right.
Also, in watching this, I realized that I have seen this movie before.
Really?
Yeah, except I liked it better when they had first made it in the 80s, and it was called Crocodile Dundee.
That's think that's stretching a bit. I think that's stretching.
Yeah.
Bro, when was the last time you seen Crocodile Dundee?
About 6 years ago.
Tell you what, you go watch that again and get back to me on that, because the storyline between the two movies is almost the exact same thing.
We'll look into that. Oh my gosh. I want to say this. I appreciate the front end recap.
Watch Branson, because he's starting to put two and two together on my statement there, and I'm watching his mind slowly blow.
No. I'm just trying to think. There wasn't a moment where Kit Walker yelled across a subway to Diana Palmer, using people intermittently to declare his love.
Bro,
so
I'd say it was a shot for shot. Come on now. Thanks for killing my joke, you jerk.
That was a romantic moment too. No, I want to say I appreciate the recap at the beginning that explains the lore of who the Phantom is and why he is what he is. I feel like that would have been a lot for them to go through, and to be perfectly honest, that fit even within the motif of early pulp comics, of most comics really, where you're jumped in, you have the character, but you don't have their history until like later. Like I don't feel like I think it was like 2 or 3 issues into the stories of Batman before you got his background, his history.
Right.
And I feel like that recap, boom, here it is, and now we're into the action. I appreciate that. I wish that. I kind of wish more movies just did that. We kind of
so you don't have to waste time on the origin. You just jump right into it. That's actually something that a lot of Spider-Man comics, especially from the 90s, did. They have like a little blurb on the splash page that says, bitten by a radioactive spider, Peter Parker learned the ultimate lesson. With great power comes great responsibility. Gaining the proportional strength of a spider, yada, yada, he became the amazing Spider-Man. So if anyone was new to the property, they had that little blurb that gave you the important parts of what you need to know about the character, and you could just dive straight in.
Remember when comic book companies actually cared about the people who are reading their comics?
Do not get me started.
This is not the podcast for that.
Wrong podcast. Hold me back.
I've smelt the purple spandex. I ain't touching you, bro.
I'm starting to wonder if that's Poofy or if it's Branson.
I know. Blame it on the dog.
Always.
So, but I appreciated that. Like it gave you a quick intro into it and allowed you to understand the story as they revealed more of the lore throughout the rest of the movie itself. And I felt like that anybody can come in and walk away from this movie going, I know what what the Phantom's about.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, it felt like I was seeing a weekly comic strip or a daily comic strip come to life, and that little blurb was like the first little box that just tells you who the Phantom is, and then you jump straight into the story. I just loved it. I mean, I can't help but just I don't want to go too much into too many of the reasons why, because they're kind of spoilery, but just the overall feel. It was a fun movie.
Yeah.
The good guys were good guys. The bad guys were bad guys. No one was trying to teach me anything. No one was trying to beat me over the head with any kind of message or point or sermon. It was just, there's a dude in a mask who fights crime. There's a bad guy who does the crime. They meet, they fight, good guy wins. End of story. It was refreshing, honestly. With especially, John, you talked about superhero fatigue. I think one of the reasons there is superhero fatigue is because they're all rinse, wash, repeat. It's all the same character. It's, oh, I have a tragic past. Oh, I am morally ambiguous. Oh, I have to make these hard decisions. Oh, it's just over and over and over again. It's like we've forgotten that superheroes are supposed to just be fun stories. And this movie, as bad as it may have been, and maybe it's because it was made in the mid-90s, so it was before superhero movies were a big thing, but it was just fun. And superhero movies nowadays aren't just fun. They're part of connected cinematic universes or just crazy stuff. It was like a refreshing drink of water.
If I could ask, do you think some of the refreshing aspect of it is, because you kind of hit it, because this had like the tragic past, he had to make hard decisions on certain things, But the difference between him and then some of the mainline superheroes that we see today, is he's not morally ambiguous. Like he kicks in a door, and it's a room full of ladies in their various stages of dress. He's like, "Oh, I apologize," and he's putting his guns away, and then he almost doesn't even want to. He doesn't even want to do anything to Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Dallas,
yeah,
both of you,
Yeah.
stop it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the spoiler section.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're there.
So he didn't want to. He didn't want to do anything to Catherine Zeta-Jones. He told Diana, tie her up. Like there was this moral high ground that he carried. Thank you, John, for keeping us on track. Like even like Captain America in the modern comics has, as compared to other characters, he's still like, the goody two shoe Boy Scout. But even towards the end of the MCU of his run, he was cursing and he was allowing himself to partake in things that were morally ambiguous. So is that what it is? He is morally moral?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's it. His moral compass always points north.
Mm-hmm.
You know that if he makes a decision, he's doing it with the best of intentions, with everyone's best interest at heart. The same is true for the villains. The villains are not sympathetic. Xander Drax wants to rule the world. That's it. He doesn't have a tragic backstory. He doesn't have a rough life growing up. He doesn't have a secret idea of how the world would be better if they would just let me snap half the universe away or whatever. He's just a megalomaniac who wants to take over the world, put opposite a hero who all he wants to do is stop evil. And the lines are clearly delineated. You know where the good guys end and the bad guys start. And I think you described it perfectly. It was just a return back to the simplicity of storytelling, of superhero storytelling, in a way that you just don't get because everyone wants their heroes to be anti-heroes and their villains to be sympathetic and everything has to be gray, and it's just tiresome.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I just endured about 5 to 6 minutes of Branson calling me out.
No. I'm not saying there's not a place for that.
No.
I'm not saying there's not a place for that. I'm just saying for me personally.
You already put it out there. There's no backpedaling here.
Wasn't it? Okay, I'll say it like this. I didn't say your name at all. So if you feel convicted, maybe that's the Holy Spirit.
Stop stealing my lines and get your own material.
Oh, goodness.
Can I ask a question here? Why is it in all modern-ish movies that are set in like the 30s that it's all the villains are the people who look like Cary Grant?
I think that is a stylistic choice that is meant to mimic Hollywood of the 1930s itself, in the 1940s. It is meant to go people who were fans of the cinema, because when this movie came out, to be perfectly fair, people who grew up in that time frame could still go to the movie, and so it was meant to grab the older audience, but also it, at least for this world, it mimics the comic books, because that's how they drew the characters, because they wanted to be that they wanted that to look that way. If you look at comic books today, women and men are drawn very differently, and it's meant to attract the audience of today, and that's what was portrayed in the comics back in the 30s. And so in the movie, in order to capture the feel of what was projected throughout media, that's what they had to do.
Yeah, I do think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, because you're on the same thought, and I was about to shift gears.
I think that there's an iconography that it's trying to, it's America 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
People have a certain idea of how it's supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
It was, if you think about it, in the 1930s, Al Capone was running around during that time. So the big mafia gangster bad guy was kind of the accepted villain. I think it was just indicative of the time period they were trying to emulate, and it was also indicative of the time period the movie was made in. They were leaning into some of these tropes. You're the mafia guys. They have the Italian accent. That kind of thing, and the the femme fatale was very, very stereotypical.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to say this.
You're talking about Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes. Going back and watching it with as an objective an eye as I could, there were some things that I was like, okay, this is a little meh. And her character was one of those.
Oh yeah, she would just throw herself at anything that was male and walking around.
And I understand that they're trying to do the femme fatale stereotype, but she leaned into that way more than any other character leaned into their trope. And like, the scene where she brings the skull to Xander Drax and she says that she scrubbed it down with toothpaste,
and
he looks at her and goes, "Toothpaste, really?" And the look on his face is like, I can't believe that you're this dumb. That's how I felt towards her character for most of the movie. It was like, why are you here other than to say, all right, do y'all remember, have y'all seen Masters of the Universe?
Yeah.
The 1980s?
It's been a very long time.
Do you remember the little pig kid that was holding Skeletor's staff? Do y'all know that
was
story?
a kid. That was a kid.
Yeah, that was a kid.
The only scene
he was wearing a pig costume. That's why I said pig kid.
I know. His story's hysterical to me.
Yeah. He won a contest from, was it Mattel?
Yeah, something like that.
The contest was you got a part in the Masters of the Universe movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the director and the crew were like, we don't know what to do with this kid. What are we going to do? So he said, put him in some random costume and let him hold Skeletor's staff. And he can give Skeletor his staff as he walks by. And that's how he got the part in the movie, was he won some stupid contest. And so they stuck him in this random scene just to give him something. I feel like Catherine Zeta-Jones' character was that. It was like either she won a contest or she was friends with somebody and they're like, get her a part in the movie. Come on, find something for her to do. Because her character served no purpose. Like the one random pilot that what's the bad guy's name?
Xander?
No. The first bad guy, the one who had killed the original Phantom.
I can't remember his name now.
When he's walking down the hall and he grabs one of the pilots and is talking with her, and she says there's a guy in a purple costume running around the ship. She looked like she had more command of what was going on than the leader of all these female pilots. Like her character seemed like she's just there to fill a spot. None of her lines are that memorable. She's not that memorable.
To be fair, I have yet to see Catherine Zeta-Jones in any role that's terribly great. So,
well, that's fair. But I mean, even her character, like if you were to remove her character from the story, it would not have any great impact on the story at all. She doesn't serve any great purpose. It was like, we need to stick Catherine Zeta-Jones in somewhere. I know, let's make her the captain of the female pilots and just run with that.
I feel like she was meant to be the contrast to Diana. That was supposed to be, the evil female versus the strong, good female. And I feel like that's what they were kind of doing. I vaguely remember this being a conversation about female pilots and like that's being a thing in pulp comics. I'm trying to look it up right now.
Well, no,
I'm not saying that she was
great.
in this, but females as a whole in pulp comics and pulp and in early comics period, that's how they drew them. That's how they portrayed. I mean, remember Lois Lane wasn't confident until the 60s. Like she was always this, like there was a whole comic, Branson, where Superman was frustrated with her. And so he made a robot because he understood his own strength to spank her for getting in his way.
Okay.
And Branson's having a hard time over here. But that was a thing that happened in Superman comics back in the day. there were several movies that were made back in that time frame where a woman would be to be disciplined would be grabbed, put over the lap of her husband, and or love interest, and they would spank them. And so this was a common trope back then where women were not intelligent. They weren't what Diana was in this movie. They were kind of ditzy. They were kind of like, even if they were strong, they had position, they still had this weird ditz aspect that was written into the characters.
Yeah. I mean, the point where I finally lost it was like, okay, she officially annoys me now. Is when they're in Xander Drack's apartment and she says the Phantom is in love with her. And Xander's like, well, why do you say that? And she says, because he could have had me and he chose her.
I'm not lying.
Okay.
That was dumb.
It's like, okay, your character officially means nothing now.
Right. I will say this.
Just go
Interesting.
away.
This is before she was a big thing. Before Catherine Zeta-Jones was a big deal. This is before she really Mask of Zorro, which is where she really popped off as a actress, in my opinion.
Yeah. And maybe that's the difference is I've seen her in roles where her character
Entrapment
has a more prominent part, like Mask of Zorro, Entrapment. Situations where her character actually serves a purpose, even if she's supposed to be the femme fatale, even if she's supposed to be the love interest, her character serves a purpose. And if you remove her character, there are holes in the story.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, if you remove her character, everything that happened still happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you take Catherine Zeta-Jones out, the female pilots still kidnap Diana Palmer. They still take her to the boat. The Phantom still rescues her. She still goes to New York. I mean, everything still happens. So
everything just got quiet and sad all
of a sudden. It's like because it's one of those things. Like it's what can you do? Again,
I do want to say though, a positive about this movie, they understood that if we're going to see a superhero movie, we want to see the superhero, not the actor who plays the superhero.
Keep your mask on.
Yes, the Phantom had his mask on the entire time he was supposed to be the Phantom. The only time he took it off was at the end when he proposed to Diana Palmer. But we don't have this weird, oh, I've gotten battle torn, so my mask is scarred and you can see half my face. Or, oh, I got in a fight and they ripped my mask off, so I had to take it off. It wasn't, I got the impression that it wasn't Billy Zane running around in a Phantom costume. It was the Phantom. He was being the Phantom, and we saw the Phantom.
Yeah.
Well, to counter your positive aspect, I want to just point out that this movie spent too much time in the daylight, and I think it would have been vastly better if it was shot in the dark of night.
I concur with that, especially.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching somebody LARP around a jungle or a city. Is what it felt like. There was so much daylight there. I'm like, I can't take this seriously.
Branson, have you read the comics?
I've read a couple of them, not a deep dive. I was actually looking for a copy so I could read up on them before I watched the movie, and I couldn't find any that I was willing to spend money on yet.
Right. I'm curious if that was a thing. I've only seen a couple of images of like the beginning story of it, and then like the cartoon from 2044, our cartoon called The Phantom 24, and they all take place at night. The movie stuff. I'm with John. The whole like, all right, wearing purple stands out quite a bit, unless you're going with the whole Shinobi thing. Then this actually works out. Him wearing dark purple that fits. Because he kind of has that whole Shinobi thing where he's master of the area, animals, wearing dark colors, moving swiftly. Even the way he kind of runs and walks is kind of like that whole deceptive, not deceptive, but minimizing footsteps. It works, but so much sunlight. It's like, hey, it's Grimace running. Wow, Grimace is ripped. Oh, he's packing, ladies and gentlemen. Grimace is packing heat. It's just.
But that plays into a theory that I've had about movies based on.
Imagine the bad guy running around this movie going rabble, 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 rabble.
McDonald's gives a call.
That was the plot for the sequel. The guy was stealing meat from butcher shops.
I probably would have enjoyed that movie better, if I'm being honest.
But the point you're making goes into a theory I've had about comic books for a long time.
Rabble.
It's that is that stuff that looks good on panels on a page in your 4-color screens doesn't necessarily automatically translate to a movie screen. You know, if you think about it, like the original Batman costume from Bob Kane and Bill Finger, 1938, I think. On the page, it looks menacing. It looks scary. Dude looks legit crazy. If you see people try to cosplay that, it looks goofy. The ears are too big. He's got purple gloves. His utility belt makes no sense. You know.
Have you ever seen the serial, the 1940 serial, The Batman?
Yes, I have that on DVD, and that illustrates my point perfectly.
I was about to say that illustrates what you're saying.
It looks terrible. It looks like a homemade costume, but they're trying to copy what was on the page.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Galactus was technically in the movie. He was a giant galactic storm, and people complained, we want to see Galactus. But I think that was actually a smart move on the part of the director. One of the few things that was good about that movie was that they thought, if we have some giant dude walking around in purple uniform with a big cup on his head, it's going to look goofy. It's going to look campy. There's no way it's going to invoke the fear that a coming devourer of worlds is supposed to invoke. So they left him as a galactic storm.
That's fair.
Because they understood that you can make Galactus look menacing on a comic book page. You can't make him look menacing on a movie screen. And so I agree that putting him at night would have helped that, because the dark purple, he would have blended into the shadows more. He would have looked more menacing. But him running around in the daylight and looking kind of goofy doing it illustrates the point that, because in the comics, if he were running around during the day in that outfit, it wouldn't look goofy, because reading a comic book, you expect that. Translate that to screen, it doesn't exactly work well. So I think that, you know, John, you mentioned that they were going to give it the Batman treatment by giving him padded rubber. If they'd had given it like a more armored look, like instead of just straight spandex, like it's, you know, something to kind of protect him, even play it with, well, you know, my dad got stabbed in the back, so let me update the suit a little bit. That might have helped that.
Are you just going to counter everything I say tonight?
No. I was agreeing with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It sounds.
So,
I was agreeing with you. I was saying that's why I think that it didn't work in the daylight, is because it looks great on a comic book page, but if you try to translate that to screen, it does look a little hokey.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a digital scan of the Phantom from 1988, the Phantom #1 from DC Comics, because they had the rights for a hot minute. And just going through the panels, to John's point, a lot of the scenes where he looks epic, it is at nighttime, but because there are actually a lot of scenes where it's in the daylight. However, he's always against darker backgrounds to make him pop, or they have shifted over where it's a pure yellow background with him in front of it, and it's more of a splash page type of thing. But that's simply meant to contrast his purple costume.
Yeah.
And so that seems to be what they're doing. But I'm with you, John. I mean, yeah, he needed to be running around dark time, I think. But also, would that in itself, doing that, would that lend itself to the dark and grimacing thing that Branson, you're tired of? Would
But here's
that
the
putting
thing,
him that element?
You literally have a character that's called the Phantom.
Right.
Dark and menacing should be the attributes they're trying to highlight in this movie. His symbol on his ring is literally a skull.
Well, you can have an idealistic hero who makes use of the shadows. I mean, think of
Don't say the
think
shadow.
of. Do I? No,
Don't
I
say
wasn't
the
going to say
shadow.
the shadow. I'm trying to think of like Silver Age Batman.
Mhm.
Okay, he's a guy who uses the shadows. He uses the dark to hide in, but he's not as dark and grim as the more modern Batman.
This
You
is
know,
true.
so I think if the only change they made was they just put him in the night, like make it a practical thing. I'm supposed to be this, the ghost who walks. I'm supposed to be this apparition. I probably don't need to run around during the daytime where people can clearly see I'm just a regular guy.
Well, here's the thing. And this is the reason why the daytime bugged me the most. And it may not be something that you guys saw when you were watching it, because you were watching it with a bit more nostalgia than I was. But I lamented the daylight, not only because it made the action scenes look weird, but I saw too much.
You saw the weird art on his costume?
No, I saw like
that bothered me.
Like I saw like there was the part where they were on the boat with the airplanes and whatnot, right?
Mhm.
And someone knocks down the girl or the guy or whatever, and he pulls out one of the guns to aim back at them, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I knew the gun was made out of rubber because I watched the barrel of the gun wiggle back and forth.
That's fair.
I saw too much. There's another part when they go to chase after the Phantom after he gets away on that red airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they got two people inside that old-timey truck, and then you got two people on each side who are hanging on the outside of the truck, and then right before the truck comes to a stop and they let the other two guys off to get on horses, right? You know which part I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I could see the rope on the front end of that old-timey truck pulling that truck forward.
I saw that too. I called that out. I was like, there's a rope there.
If it was a nighttime shot, I wouldn't have seen it.
This is true. This is true. There were certain things that worked. The scene with the magnifying not magnifying glass, the what do you call this? It's the microscope.
Microscope. Yes.
That scarred me for life to the point that in elementary school, when lab day, we're looking at the microscope, I would flip it just to make sure things weren't going to jettison into my eyeballs.
See, that was the moment where Xander Drax became like I understood that Xander Drax was a megalomaniac and psychotic, not just hey, I like power. I want all the power I can get. That's the moment where it's like, okay, no, he's sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
So that scene made me appreciate Xander Drax more as a villain. Up before that point.
I will say that Xander Drax, or rather Treat Williams, was my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like somebody in the taglines had made a comment about the villain getting worse as the movie goes on. I disagree. I love how he was played in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a villain, but he was a dumb villain, which I loved. Is like he didn't understand what the real problem was, and he didn't care to understand. He was just like, hey, I'm just here because ziggity doo.
Which in of itself plays to the pulp villains even of itself in that the old comics where the villains are just, I mean, like the Joker, he was an idiot. He was out to do crime, and then later they made him darker, which for certain things work.
Well, it accented that he was in over his head. Mm-hmm. He was going after ultimate power, had no clue what that actually even meant. Like up until all three skulls were put together and he accidentally lasered his henchman, he didn't even know what would happen when he put the three skulls together. He just knew it was incalculable power. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's put it together and see. Like at no point did he understand what he was doing, and it was that hubris that made him kind of laughable, but at the same time dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't know what he's doing, and you give him incalculable power, is like, oh dang, It's like giving an idiot the detonation key to a nuclear bomb. It's like, oh, what does this button do?
Or an uninteresting actor, the lead role in a superhero movie. Can we talk about Billy Zane and the fact that he's got all the charisma of an eggplant?
He spends his days pretending to be a ghost in a cave with a servant. His best friend is a horse. And
He
a wolf.
has zero personality.
I'm not saying he had personality. I'm just saying it's not that hard to believe. He occasionally converses with the Commissioner Gordon character who pretends to not think he's real.
Dude. If you're going to be a superhero in a movie, if you're going to put a superhero in a movie, they have to have some charisma. Yeah, I'm not paying to see something accurate on the screen, because if I saw something accurate on the screen, Homeboy would have had his head blown off 6 ways from Sunday. So let's throw realism out the window here.
Okay.
This guy,
fair point. He did not act the part. He did not act the part as well as he could have.
And whereas he was not my favorite Batman, do you know who would have done this part amazingly? Amazingly.
Who?
Michael Keaton. Think about it.
Thinking like Mr. Mom.
No. think like Michael Keaton from Batman 90.
89.
I could see that. No, because one of the things I liked about Michael Keaton was his Bruce Wayne was very Bruce Wayne and his Batman was very Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree with you there. Because he could be a Kit Walker that's, hi, Diana, how you doing? And then he puts the mask on and it's like, I have to get the skull. I agree. Yes, I think he would make a good Phantom.
I'm curious, though, in the comics thing, and this is, we're kind of handicapped because we haven't read the comics. If it was such a dynamic, if it was a duality of the Phantom in him, are they really that separate in the early comics that this is clearly based on? Or was it a flat? Because if you read the first runs of Batman, he was a flat character for the most part. There wasn't a lot of dynamic. There was a couple of jokes that were made, but it wasn't a duality.
Well, and I don't know how much in the comics that a secret identity was really part of it. Like he spent most of his days as the Phantom.
In the jungle.
That's what I'm talking about. Like in this movie, he had a reason to be someone other than the Phantom. He needed an identity where he could go to New York and walk the streets and, have that 1930s man about the city look.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the comic, I mean, he was in the jungle most of the time. So there probably wasn't a need for a dual identity.
I just spent most of the time wondering at what point he got a ticket for the Titanic. And why he didn't handle that situation appropriately.
Also, with Billy Zane, when he would you talk about him having that Phantom mask on the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
When he had the Phantom mask on the entire time, dude looked like Jeff Goldblum in a mask.
I'm not seeing that. I'm looking at him now. I'm not seeing that. Well, wait a minute.
Look at old pictures of Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
Not current ones.
Yep. It's the lips.
Yeah.
And now, if I want you to think about it, Jeff Goldblum as the Phantom would have been amazing.
No.
Yes.
No. No.
He's like, wait. It was a skull. It was Jade skull. Yes. Jade could be a Jade skull.
I'm feeling Jade, and I have a skull on my ring. I have the first skull.
No.
I just want you to know that I only take this mask off to the woman I intend to marry, and because I'm taking it off, that obviously means that now, if you listen to it, just hear me out. That you
Please stop.
Are the one that I want to marry.
Branson's like, I'm done.
And speaking of that marriage scene, oh my gosh. Okay, this is like we've been having fun, but there's like big issue I have with a line in this movie.
Okay.
After she says, and what if she refuses? When he's like, I will only reveal my secrets to the woman that I intend to marry, right?
Right.
Is it just me, or does the phrase "no one refuses the Phantom" does that sound a little bit rapey to you guys?
Are you gonna cancel "Baby It's Cold Outside" too? No,
Dude.
that was a statement though from the comics. Those were no.
It never appeared another time in the movie. Except
But it was a running thing in the movie. Like, no one argues with the Phantom and wins. No one kills the Phantom. Like it was a running thing. They kept talking about.
It didn't connect. It didn't connect to that running gag.
It connected for me. Like
so
seriously,
did not for me. He's like,
seriously, when he
nobody
said
refuses the Phantom, and I'm like, does this rag smell like ether to you?
Because the whole idea is that the Phantom is supposed to be immortal. Like that's the story they sell is you kill him, he comes back, he can't be killed. And so the idea of the Phantom is bigger than just a mortal guy. That's why he keeps saying no one refuses the Phantom. No one gets in an argument with the Phantom and wins. The Phantom has many faces. The Phantom has many secrets. It's this bigger than it's this bigger than thing. And it was almost like Kit Walker was desperately trying to live up to that legend just a little bit. It's like, well, I'm the Phantom and no one refuses the Phantom. To me, it came across as a please, I gave you black pearls. It came across me as
it came across real dude bro to me, dude.
I think that if they had not established they have a playful relationship already, as the way that they communicate with each other, and the fact that he is very respectful and very honoring of women, then you absolutely would be like, yeah, that was over the top, dude. That was a bit much. At the same time, we're looking at this in 2023 eyes. I almost said 2021 eyes. In 2023 eyes,
dude, COVID has broken the timeline. I'm sorry, but
it's gone. But we have to remember this was a story. The elements were originally written for back in the 30s, where it was a very different time frame, where conversation, right or wrong, things were spoken differently and were perceived differently, and it wasn't taken in such a way as we see it now. Nowadays, it would be very different conversation. It would be like, with your consent, I would like to, if you're okay with this, it would sound like more Jeff Goldblum, honestly. Like, if you're okay with it, possibly there's a possibility for marriage,
and perhaps I might show you some of my secrets. Now hear me out. If you just listen, I'm getting an idea. What if the two of us, with your consent, were to head to the city hall and possibly say some nuptials? And
I just want to say that whatever appreciation I had for Jurassic Park is gone now, because all I can see is the Malcolm character from that movie in a Phantom suit talking, and now I'm like, no, stop.
Branson, my dude, is that the only place you know Jeff Goldblum from?
No, it's not, but it's the first time I saw Jeff Goldblum, so that's my go-to Jeff Goldblum movie.
Bro, go watch the 1987 The Fly movie starring.
I've seen it.
He is more Malcolm in that movie than he is in Jurassic Park. Like Jurassic Park is him toned down.
Yeah, I could see that. But...
So one thing I kept asking myself when this movie was playing, though, was like, this movie had a $45 million budget in 1996 money, right? And wow. I'm like, why does this movie look so cheap?
Yes.
But Raiders of the Lost Ark was made in 1980, 82?
Yeah, something like that.
And that looked so much better.
I think part of the reason was they really leaned into like, you could tell the skulls were computer animated.
Well, that was just what I was going to say. I think what happened was that they took that money. I'm starting to sound like Jeff Goldblum too. You see, what happened was they took that money, and if you follow that over, but what they did with it was they took that money and they were trying to put it into cutting edge special effects technology for the time.
Yeah,
like there was a lot of green screen in this movie.
Yeah,
like a lot, and it just the tech was not there for 1996. Right. Like I'm watching this now. and something that's always bugged me about early green screen effect is that there's always an illumination around the area that's being green screened.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
you can see the outline of the process, and it's just like, oh, it pulls me out of it so bad. I'm like, if you guys would have stuck with practical effects for this movie and went the Indiana Jones route, this would have been so much better to look at.
Absolutely.
Because they took something that had the like that's what frustrates me the most about this movie is I could see how it could have been such a better movie just looking at it with just some simple tweaks. If they would have shot it like an Indiana Jones movie and used practical effects instead of trying to invest in technology that's just not there yet.
Right.
It's sort of like when you see I'm quoting here, see The Rock at the end of the second Mummy movie. Like
you
that,
really are stuck in the Goldblum, or like you still are talking like him.
I can't help it. This is how I get when I get excited and I'm chasing my own rabbits here.
But no, I agree with you. If they'd have gone with practical effects, shot more shots at night, tried to put the Phantom in environments where he actually looked, I don't want to say menacing, but more dangerous than a guy in purple spandex. Removed some of the characters. Oh yeah, and by the way, the random gangster who takes over the family business just in time to get shot by a cannon. Like, what was his purpose other than to say, "Hey, look, we have a gangster."
To get shot by a cannon.
See,
literal cannon fodder. That was his purpose.
They could have just not introduced his character at all and shot Catherine Zeta-Jones and achieved the same purpose.
I feel like that's more of a Freudian concept at this point with you. Like,
okay, well then fine.
Remove his character. Shoot Catherine Zeta-Jones because that's what I think of her character.
So take Catherine Zeta-Jones' character out completely and shoot him. There's too much dead weight. There are too many characters in this movie that just serve no purpose.
I think that's also a product of
I enjoyed watching him get shot by a cannon.
I really feel like it's a product of the source material, though. Of if you look at the comics, I mean, it was most of those comics today, it was the villain of the week, the creature of the week. And you had all these characters constantly thrown into a story. There were one-off characters that would just die, and you would move on.
That's true.
I'm wondering if that's just
that may be what makes it feel like an adventure comic strip, is that you have these characters that are just appear and disappear.
Right.
That's fair.
I mean, honestly, I could fix this movie and turn it into a top shelf movie by making 3 adjustments to it.
Oh, really?
Okay. I would have recasted the Phantom entirely. And maybe recast Diana. My jury's still out on Christy Swanson in this movie as far as whether or not I could find her to be tolerable. I would have gone with practical effects over the green screen. And I felt that the script was still underdeveloped and problematic. I think it needed one more go through because there was some corny stuff where it's just like, this doesn't need to be here. I mean, like I can see how it was just, it's like when you're watching, do either of you watch football?
On occasion.
It's sort of like when you're watching the running back and he gets like within inches of the goal line and he gets tackled right before the goal line. And it's just so frustrating because it's almost there. And you can see how it could have gotten there if it just would have done this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what frustrates me about this movie so much is it could have been so much better, and I can see all the reasons why.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Because I love adventure movies. Like Indiana Jones is like -1, is like one of my favorite movie franchises of all time.
Well, -2 soon.
No. I'm holding reservations on that. I'm
not holding out hope. I was excited for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and got let down. So I'm not holding out hope for this one.
But here's the thing. It's the odd number movies that are good in that series.
That's true.
And like Harrison Ford's like actively denied that film ever existed.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's face it, outside of the beginning of the movie, Temple of Doom was kind of tosh as well. So like his time in Bangkok in the beginning of that movie was fantastic, but once they got on the plane, it was just like, all right. It was Ewok City after that. Basically, you could feel George Lucas's fingers all over it.
Hitcha.
Nap nap.
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like we've talked this to death.
Yeah, well, we've talked to a point where we'd rather talk about other movies at this point. So
yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and rate this. We have a new way of talking about the ratings on this show.
I'm pretty
now.
Excited about the new way of talking about
it. I think it provides a little bit of clarity. It was kind of some brain droppings I analyzed today and sent it to the other guys, and we all voted, and it was 100% agreement that this was a clearer way to define the shelves. So if you guys don't mind, do you care if I describe this then?
Rock it out,
Go
brother.
for it.
All right. So here at the bottom shelf, we have a 4 rating system on how we analyze these movies. We have the top shelf, which is a movie that we would feel after watching it, we feel a compulsion that we need to own a copy of this movie. Middle shelf is one of those types of movies like, maybe if it's streaming, I'll throw it on. I'm not going to run out to buy it. Bottom shelf is, I probably won't watch this again. And then the dumpster fire is, I will actively try to keep people from watching this tosh. So, and it's very to the point. I think it's very descriptive of where the lines are at. So this is the way we're going to kind of define the shelves going forward.
This is the way.
This is the new way. All right. So Dallas,
sir.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. How are you rating this movie?
Okay, so I'm having to think through this. On the front end, I'm going the middle shelf, but I'm also trying to balance out my hyper focus ADD brain and going, I want to do everything the Phantom right now. Yes, Phantom, lots of Phantom stuff. There's series out there. There's comics. There's there's movies. There's sci-fi
I feel
movies.
like this is what would happen if Smeagol was played by Jeff Goldblum. It is my precious, perhaps. Maybe. We need it.
Maybe not.
It burns us, but it freezes.
My thought process, by the way, John, you need to check our Facebook team chat real quick. I really am struggling with this. Gosh, this is so, I can't believe I'm saying this about this film, because up to this moment I was like, yeah, it's going to be a middle shelf, 100%, but I'm going to top shelf it. I want to go buy this on DVD right now. I want to go buy this DVD.
Yes.
This is the new rating system, John. You put this out there. I want to go buy this DVD.
I was so concerned about whether or not I could create a new rating system that I didn't stop to wonder if I should. Please stop.
Welcome to the go.
That's going to be like a new thing on the bottom shelf now, is Jeff Goldblum playing various roles. I am so here for this.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
That's our new WWJD on here, is what would Jeff do?
Stop. I'm gonna die.
So I'm putting it on top shelf. The new rating system, it's where it has to go.
I hate that so much.
To be fair, cards on the table, this was my guilty pleasure pick.
Yeah.
And so top shelf.
You walked in with that, with the nostalgia glasses on. I got it. It's fine. All right, Branson.
Come on, let's get this over with.
Yeah, just peel it off like a dirty Band-Aid.
I will not sit here and say it's a good movie or a perfect movie by any means. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's top quality stuff, but it is enjoyable. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy watching it every time I watch it. Even the things that I don't like about it, I enjoy not liking those things about it. It's weird. Much like Dallas, after watching it, I was like, oh man, where are the comics? Where's that other movie? There was Dallas, do you remember Defenders of the Earth? Where the
Yeah.
Phantom was a character on that team?
Yeah, he was.
Like, I wanted to pull that back up. I summoned the strength of 10 tigers. I mean, I'm right there with you. Amazon.com, you can purchase the Blu-ray for $9.99.
All right.
And once I clear it financially with my wife/accountant, I have every intention of purchasing this film because I think it's an injustice that the only time I watch it is when it's streaming somewhere, given that I enjoy it this much. So
Just do it,
flaws
Branson.
included.
Break my heart.
Flaws included, I'm gonna put this movie on the top shelf.
Ugh.
You did this.
I know. It's fine. I made my bed. I got to sleep in it. All right. With that being said, my vote ultimately doesn't matter. However, my voice will be heard.
I'm
spent
known with the microphone.
I spent my entire time watching this movie, trying to watch the movie that could have been rather than the movie that it was. The entire time I kept thinking to myself that this reminds me of a bunch of other movies that I liked better. And that bugs me when I watch a movie and I could
see that.
It's like, I don't, this isn't what I want. And maybe I'm not the target audience for it. Maybe I'm one of those weirdos that Branson was talking about who likes everything in shades of gray.
Takes all kinds, man.
It morally speaking, chromatically speaking, script speaking, it was just too monochrome for me.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't enough nuance, and there was just... I feel like I would have enjoyed this if I would have seen it at a younger age like you guys did. But being as I didn't see it until I was in my 40s and I'm watching it and I'm just like, the entire time I'm watching it, I am fighting urges to turn it off and watch something else. I wasn't, it wasn't because I hated it. It's just like, it wasn't good. And so that's the reason why I'm going to put it on the bottom shelf. Like I can respect why people would enjoy it, especially like you two who saw it at a more appropriate age to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not the one for this. So I would put it on I would put it on a high bottom shelf.
That's fair. That's fair.
So there we have it, everybody. We have it as the Phantom has been labeled by the Bottom Shelf podcast as a disputed top shelf. And saying that, I can taste bile. All right, let's head over to the weak connections.
This is a weak connection.
This is a weak connection.
All right, so welcome to Week Connection. This is a portion where we have shamelessly robbed our friend Ben of Strangers and Aliens, and which is a fantastic podcast you guys should check out, where they probably won't rate this as a top shelf film. But that being said, but it's where we look at these films that we love or hate, and we try to find some redemptive value, and we try to find something encouraging, to point people back to hope, to peace, to victory in Jesus. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pulling this out. The concept of the Phantom is a story of legacy. It is father to son, passing on a legacy, passing on purpose, passing off an identity and speaking into who they are, but passing on a mission, of value. The conversation of these guys, while they eventually they must all return to the trade of being the Phantom. These guys live in various places doing different things. Now, sometimes it's not great. Fun fact: the lineage of the Phantom almost died off, and we have Shakespeare to blame. One of the early renditions of the Phantom, the Kit was off in Europe living with mom and was working under Shakespeare and was playing the girl in the play. He was playing Juliet, and the Phantom was like, "All right, it's time for you to come back to the jungle, son, because you have work to do." So that's an interesting aspect. But regardless, not necessarily talking about passing on a job to people, although it's a thing that can happen sometimes. But Proverbs 13:22, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. And in this, it's talking about how a good person, you leave something behind for your kid. You leave something behind for the next generation. Whereas a sinner, the person, a foolish person, they everything's about themselves. They store up everything that's for themselves. And my challenge, my encouragement is we need to examine what we're doing, who we are as individuals, and ask ourselves, what am I leaving behind for the next generation? As of right now, John and I are not fathers in the physical sense. Branson has sired two strapping young men, and but regardless if you are a father in the natural sense or in the spiritual sense, and make no mistake, every man is a spiritual father in some fashion. It's just a matter of how involved you are with some people in your lives. We're leaving behind something for our next generation, and we need to ask ourselves, what are we leaving behind? Are we leaving behind debt? Are we leaving behind depression and fear, anxiety? Are we leaving debt behind? And these are debt. This is like the some of the things that people are facing today. It is a debt of fatherlessness. It is a debt of somebody not taking the time to speak into somebody's life and to encourage them. A lot of your identity issues, a lot of your fears, your doubts, and all these things. These are debts left behind by a previous generation. Not completely. There are things that we own up for ourselves, obviously, but there is stuff that's passed down. Whereas if we are willing to step in and leave an inheritance, leave something behind for the next generation, speak life into younger people, speak life into them, and point out, hey, this is this is what you're operating in, and this is who you are. This is what God's called you to be, and call them out of darkness into light. And again, we're not talking about because this whole conversation can lean in heavily to being a man's man, all sort of stuff. I don't hunt, I don't shoot, but I that's not what we're talking about. You can be a dude and be into arts and crafts and be into role playing games and stuff like that. I apologize for burping.
Why are you calling me out, Dallas?
Because I'm calling myself out too, brother.
We're all geeks here.
We're all geeks and nerds here. You don't have to. That's not what we're talking about. But it means be a man's man. We're talking about speaking to people's identity in Christ and who they are in Jesus, and we need to be leaving that inheritance behind, leaving insurance of, hey, this is who you are. This is what God's called you to be. And now how that plays out in their lives, how they live that, that's a whole conversation. But that's kind of where I'm at with this, our week connection for today.
Sweet. Branson, do
Very
you
cool.
has a weak connection?
I do has a weak connection. All right. Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 23 through 24. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man boast in his wisdom, let not the mighty man boast in his might, let not the rich man boast in his riches, but let him who boasts boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am the Lord who practices steadfast love, justice, and righteousness in the earth. For in these things I delight, declares the Lord. I want to talk about Xander Drax. And I mentioned before in the show, one of the things that made Xander Drax both laughable and dangerous is that he never really understood how deep he was in everything. The dude wanted to rule the world. He found a source of incalculable power,
Mm-hmm.
and he was going to use that to take over the world. And even when he had it, he didn't understand what he had.
Yeah.
Dallas, stop sending me Jeff Goldblum memes, please. Okay, back on track. he didn't understand. He really thought that, in a way, godhood was something he could hold on to. He thought, if I put these skulls together, I can do this and I can do that. The guy was full of himself.
Yeah.
He honestly thought he was untouchable. And that is what led to his downfall. He was told, there's a fourth skull. Without the fourth skull, you can't control the other three. And he thought, who needs that? In fact, he even says in the movie, who needs a fourth skull? I've got these three and I can laser people. I mean, I'm awesome, right? And I think a lot of times the temptation, and it's a temptation that reaches back all the way to the Garden of Eden. When Satan is tempting Eve and says, if you bite of this fruit, you will be like God, knowing good and evil. What he's basically saying is, who needs God when you can have the knowledge of God yourself? And mankind we're terrible about constantly thinking we know better than God.
Yeah.
We know better than the Lord that created us. We somehow know better. We can do it better. And as Xander Drax learned, you can get in over your head very, very easily. And so as followers of Christ, we've really got to keep ourselves in check. We've got to make sure that we're not ever at a point where we're like, oh, I can do better, or even dangerous. Well, God help me to this spot, but I've got this from now. We have to be able to humble ourselves so that we don't follow the example of Xander Drax and think, oh, I've got this. I'm tough. I can handle this. And then it leads to our destruction.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cautionary tale, is that we're not as awesome as we think we are.
Right.
And we need the Lord to give us wisdom, to guide us, and to sometimes kind of put a check on us and sit us on our butts and remind us that we're not as awesome as we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I like that.
I don't have any kind of spiritual counsel on this movie, so I'm going to take a pass on this, but I'm going to prove to you how easy it would be to make this movie as a remake and do it better.
Okay.
Because I had this thought while you guys were talking. Start the beginning of the movie after the whole corny rope bridge scene, right? Take the short round wannabe kid out of the truck, right? And it's just a couple guys that are in the truck as they're raiding this tomb, right?
Yeah.
Pan in on the big bad number one guy who was the guy who killed the original Phantom. Jason Statham.
Now that, yeah.
Okay. Bring in, drum start beating, right? Phantom comes in, and it's the person playing the Phantom in this, Vin Diesel. Focus on fist fighting rather than gunplay.
Okay.
Turn Vin Diesel more into. Hang on.
Thinking like
I'm thinking like pitch dark.
Yeah, Riddick.
Yeah, Riddick.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking like Riddick Vin Diesel, you know what I mean?
Yes. Okay, I'm with you.
Beats the tar out of them, right? You go through the whole entire story. Who's playing Xander Drax? I don't know. Maybe Andy Garcia. Going full mafia lord who owns half the city, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The only one I'm not. Oh, no, I got it. The person to play Diana, Gal Gadot.
She fits that motif.
Yes. She would work good there.
Didn't she do that kind of motif in one of the Hercule Poirot movies, the modern ones? Murder on the Nile or something like that? I think she was.
The way she portrayed Diana Prince, if you in the first Wonder Woman movie, if you just make her more aware of the world around her, but keep that same attitude of, I don't need protecting, I can take care of myself, get out of my way.
Right.
I think that would work, because that's what they tried to do with Diana Palmer in this movie, was to make her this.
Now hang on, wasn't done. I gave you the casting now.
Oh, okay.
Have the have it being shot by the same people who made Kong Skull Island, right?
Okay.
And instead of the moving score soundtrack, go with a kind of a classic 1960s, 1970s rock soundtrack like Skull Island. Like, can you imagine that opening scene where that fight is in the jungle, and maybe a car chase in the jungle to the tune of Run Through the Jungle by Creedence Clearwater Revival?
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Tell me this isn't starting to sound a little bit amazing.
It'd be
I think it could work.
Disney, call me. No, wait. This is a DC property. Warner Brothers, call me.
Actually, it's
We'll
not
do
a DC
lunch.
property.
It was what?
It's not a DC property.
It isn't? You said it was.
No, I said that they had the rights to it for a while.
Oh.
Who's got the rights now?
I think it's up in the air. I think Dynamite had it for a little bit.
No, wait. You said Phantom came out in 36?
Mm-hmm.
It might be public domain now. Or close to it.
Branson's next audio drama.
Gonna run through the jungle.
I'll have to look into that. The
Dynamite
Phantom's-
Entertainment took over comic book rights to the Phantom and launches their series, The Last Phantom, in 2010. But that was just the comic book rights.
So they have the comic book rights, but nothing else?
Well, it just says they have the comic book rights.
Well, I mean, but do they have all comic book rights, or do they have the rights to the comic book they made?
I don't know.
See, that's the distinction. Because
Let's
that
see here.
one means
Now,
they made a
Phantom
comic-
Lady is in public domain.
Oh yeah,
That was
Branson's
that,
like,
that was his daughter. That was one of the daughters of.
Oh,
within
okay. I'm
lineage.
thinking of someone different. I'm
No,
thinking of
Fa-
like one of those golden age superheroes that they pull out of the drawer every once in a while to do a story on.
Branson trailed off there.
We need to finish this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, thank you for listening today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking time to listen to this podcast. Enjoy it. If you like The Bottom Shelf, leave a review on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else podcasts are reviewed. John, where can people find you?
We weren't doing that anymore, Dallas, because we're all just going to put links in the description below.
Oh, that sounds good to me. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, thanks for listening to the podcast. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. We want to hear from you. Do you like The Phantom? Yes or no? Let us know in the comment section of our YouTube video, or send us hate mail, whatever you want to do. Just send it all to johndoesn't.care@gmail.com.
I really don't.
But we do want to hear from you. Send us messages, contact us on Instagram or on Facebook. Just look for The Bottom Shelf Podcast. We pop up relatively easily. Also, recently we are available on YouTube Music if you want to check out our podcast there. I believe that's it. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay devoted.
Love and peace.
Peace and love.